Good evening, and welcome to this amazing live. I am so happy to be with you, to connect with you every Friday. And today it's a very special live because there's actually knowledge and there's understanding and there are solutions also. So tonight we are talking about learning difficulties. We will be handling specifically, or we'll be talking, addressing ADHD, autism, and general learning disabilities such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, problem in processing. So we'll be talking about what they mean, what does it mean to have ADHD, what does the person experience, the person that has ADHD, and we're going hopefully to understand the hope, the possibility, what is available for the people who have learning disabilities, and to know actually that now there is hope for better experience, for better learning, and for better life. Because if we can learn, then we can improve, then we can achieve and develop to the better person and better version. So, ADHD, autism, learning difficulties, are they limits or are they signs of untapped potential? Tonight, it isn't about labels. It's about understanding what really is happening in the brain, how these challenges show up in daily lives, and most importantly, how they feel to the person living them. So many children and adults, they try hard. They try harder and harder every day. And still they feel like they are failing. Not because they can't learn, just because they're not learning in the way their brain learns or their brain needs. In this life, we'll break common myths, talk about real experiences, and I'm going to share how approaches like the structure of intellect and energy programs help unlock strength, build confidence, and create real changes. So let's talk, let's learn, and let's grow together. What are ADHD, autism, and the learning difficulties? So let's start with foundational understanding. Key Key details. Let's talk about foundational understanding. Let us understand what these are. They are neurodevelopmental differences, meaning that the brain develops and processes information differently, not incorrectly. They're just different. They cannot process in the same way that a person without those learning difficulties process. Hello, Shahan. Thank you for joining my live. So, we're talking about those learning difficulties, and we just highlighted that they are neurodevelopmental differences. So, the brain develops and processes information differently and not incorrectly. Let's start with ADHD. People with ADHD, what does ADHD mean? Which is attention deficit disorder. It's, as you said, there's a problem with attention, with regulation of attention, and there's a problem with controlling the impulses, a problem with the working memory, so they cannot memorize things easily, and with the flexibility of their mind, so mental flexibility. We're going to go into deep in understanding what do these mean as in like everyday life experience. Then autism. Autism, it affects social communication and interpretation. So people, the autistic people, they communicate in a different way and they interpret events and things around them in a different way. They have autism affects the sensory processing, which means how they perceive light, how they perceive sound, touch, movement, everything. They understand life and things around them in a different way. And also, autism affects the need, affects the need for predictability and for structure. So autistic people, they need a very structured environment. They need to know that they need to be able to predict what's going to happen. Otherwise, this will throw them off and might be very challenging, and the way they will express is with a challenging behavior. Now, this is ADHD, and then this is autism. Now, let's talk about other learning difficulties, because there are other learning difficulties. And so we talk about dyslexia, which is a problem with language and reading. We talk about dyscalculia, which is a problem with numbers and logic. And then we talk about the processing speed difficulties. So the ability to process information, it's very slow compared to a normal person. And then there's the visual and auditory processing challenges. So we have challenge in understanding and grasping in analyzing what we see and what we hear. So visual and auditory. Now, we described the challenges, but let's make sure to keep something very clear, that intelligence in those people sometimes is average, but sometimes above average. But their performance doesn't reflect this. So people that have learning disability doesn't mean that they are less intelligent, or they cannot. It's just that their performance is different because of their difficulty with the working memory, difficulty with controlling their impulses, difficulty with social communication, but they can have either average intelligence or even above than average intelligence. So learning difficulties, they are not related to how intelligent or not a person is. And we're going to get to this. Also, there's no such thing anymore as just intelligence, IQ, a number. There are small things that we call cognitive skills that all together make someone able or not able to learn better, or intelligence as we would describe. Hello, Tina. Thank you for joining. Amazing to see you. So we're talking about learning difficulties, and tonight we're going to talk about the hope that those people with learning difficulties have. So we started by explaining what is ADHD, how it is shown, or what's the challenge with autistic people, and general learning disabilities. Now, how do they manifest in real life? So yes, it's nice to describe, to define, but an autistic person, or a person with ADHD, or a person with learning difficulties, how does this show? Thank you very much, Tina. Please hang on, because there's a lot of help and there's a lot of hope for people who have learning disabilities. So how do they, in real life, how do we see these things? First of all, they have difficulties in following many steps, instructions, multi-step, we call them multi-step instructions. They need things to be described one step at a time for them to be able to process or to arrive to an outcome. And they reach slowly the output. Even if they understood, there's a slow, the process is very slow. Then there's inconsistency in their performance. So sometimes it's very good, sometimes they struggle. You don't understand, like, yes, yesterday you just did it like amazingly. Why today you're not able? It's not that they're not intelligent, or maybe it was a luck thing. It's just about the impulses, about different mood, different way of controlling or of perceiving things. And then they have trouble in starting or in ending a task. Okay, so this is in a learning environment. Now, when it comes to behavior and emotions, first of all, they have emotional outbursts, especially when they are overloaded. Okay, like for example, when I told you, if they don't understand everything, they don't know that they have a difficulty in processing, they will become overwhelmed, and there will be those emotional outbursts. They might withdraw, they might avoid, because they don't want to like fail or show that they cannot. And they appear unmotivated, or they appear oppositional. But this is not that they're not motivated. It's not they're not able because of those skills, those limitations, not because they're not intelligent. They might be more than. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that this is very clear. And please, if you have any question, do post them here. I would be more than happy to answer them just after I finish well the presentation. Okay. Now, so in behavior and emotion, we said first they have emotional outbursts due to overload. They withdraw, they avoid, not because they're antisocial, not because they're not intelligent. It's just because they have those limitations that they don't understand. They just feel I cannot process many steps, or I cannot understand this thing. I don't know what's happening to me, so I avoid, I withdraw. Sometimes they appear unmotivated or confrontational, oppositional, and they get tired from trying to keep up because they're always trying to keep up. They're always trying to catch up. Okay, so yeah, they feel awkward just because their way of understanding the way their brain functions is different from us, and so what is different from the norm or the standard, we find weird. But for them, that's how they understand. And maybe we are weird for them. Now, the key idea here is that what looks like behavior is often just brain overload or a skill gap. It's not a choice. It's not that they're choosing to withdraw, they're choosing to overreact, or no. It's just they have a brain overload and maybe a skill gap. And we're going to get to this. Now, how does it affect people that have those learning difficulties? First of all, let's talk about the emotional experience, and then we'll talk about the long-term impact. Emotional experience. First of all, they're in doing constant effort and they're seeing very little success. So they're trying so hard and they're achieving just little. Again, let me remind you, it's not that because they're less intelligent, they might even have a more like above than average intelligence. It's just that the way their brain functions and the skills that I'm going to reveal what these skills are just in a minute. Then they might feel different or not good enough because it's not working, or at least it's not working for those around them who have different standards. They fear making mistakes. They feel shame for the repeated corrections and comparisons because if they cannot understand many steps, so they feel that we're having to repeat the steps for them, to say them one after the other. Thank you for the information, Tina. Exactly. People with ADHD usually are very intelligent. And they if they are not supported properly, which we're not now gonna get to it, well, there are consequences for that. So we're talking about the emotional experience. We said that there's this constant effort with little success. There's this feeling different or not good enough. They fear making mistakes. They feel shame because things are being repeated for them, and there's always this comparison. And last but not least, they start losing confidence over time. So the long-term impact, if this is not supported, there's anxiety because I feel that I'm in constant need of help. People are repeating things. I become anxious. There's low self-esteem, of course, and then they it's a learned helplessness. They're not helpless, but they learn to feel helpless. So it's learned helplessness, and they become disengaged from learning because they feel what's the use? I'll better give up. Okay, so for people with learning disabilities, the most important thing is the emotional safety. When they feel safe emotionally, now they can start improving their learning experience. So when we say someone has ADHD, someone is autistic or has dyscalculia, dysgraphia, or any kind of learning difficulty, this becomes like a label. Now, labels, they can help, but also they can harm. Now, how do labels help? They help just because they provide a language for understanding. We can understand now better those people because we know that they have this limitation or this difficulty. And it also validates their experience. It it gives like, it explains that what's happening. So it validates their experience, and it opens also access to some accommodations and support, like especially here where I am in the UK, students in school that are diagnosed with one of those learning difficulties, they get sometimes extra time in exams, they get they get different accommodations for them to be able to learn in a better way. But still, that's not the best solution. I'm coming to the best solution. Now, but on the other side, and it also, of course, shifts blame away from the child or the adult. But how those labeled her harm. When they become an identity. Like, yeah, I have ADHD, so I take that as an identity, and my expectations are lowered. Either people's expectation of me or my own expectations, they're lowered. Yeah, I have ADHD, so like it's pointless, it's useless, you know? And then when the focus stays on the deficit and not on the strength, not on the opportunity, not on the possibility. So a label should answer how can we support this brain, and not what will this person never be able to do. When the label answers the question how can we support this brain, then it is helpful. But if the label is answering the question like what will this person never be able to do, like, oh, he is autistic, then he'll never be able to do 1 2 3 or function or whatever, this is very harmful. Thank you, Tina. I'm very happy with the interaction and for the support. If anyone has a question, please do let me know. Now, the hope, something that I got trained in and something that I discovered. And by the way, on Wednesday, the past Wednesday, 2 days ago, I had an interview with the founder of Energy Wellbeing, who developed the Structure of Intellect program to be delivered in schools and in young adults. And it was overwhelmingly enlightening and amazing, because I learned, although I was trained, I didn't know the extent of the impact. I learned that even those who are on the high end of the spectrum of autism and ADHD can still also be helped and improve their living experience and learning experience. So, structure of intellect breaks intelligence, or what I want to stop calling as intelligence, into specific trainable cognitive skills. So from now on, I want us all to start talking about cognitive skills, not about intelligence. There's nothing anymore. That's a broken myth. You're not born intelligent or not. You're born with certain set of, or not actually born, you develop your cognitive skills depending on your environment, depending on your interactions, your experiences, and you grow up with a certain skills. And those skills, because they're called skills, can be improved. Okay? And so we identify and we break them down through things like memory, like attention, like reasoning, like processing speed, like visual and auditory analysis. And we break them down into the ability to understand things as a unit, as a class, as a relation, as a transformation. And whatever you're receiving is a set of information, and you have skills for you to understand, to interact, to transform this information that you are. Because your senses, they are just tools to collect information. You either taste something, you hear something, you felt something, and your brain, who's receiving all this information, is processing it and memorizing it. That's why you learn not to touch fire because it burns. You learn to stop when you see a car coming, because that will cause that might take your life away, right? So we learn these by experience, by feeling, or by hearing instructions, by hearing rules and regulations, by reading text and understanding what happened. Okay. Now, why does this matter? Because for those with learning difficulties, instead of tutoring them on a subject, okay, they're facing trouble, they're facing a lot of trouble, facing a lot of challenges. Sorry, with math, with processing equations, whatever. Instead of just giving them math lessons, which will not help, the structure of intellect strengthens the thinking tool. So we're helping them with thinking better, improving their thinking ability. And the progress that will be achieved, thank you very much, NVLX, the progress that is achieved actually can be transferred. It's transferable across subjects because when you improve your ability to memorize, which is a very basic skill for you to be able to learn, if you cannot memorize what you just received, then the higher level, the more advanced level, you cannot advance to it. So if you improve your memory, memory is transferable to all subjects. If you improve your attention, it's transferable to all subjects. If you improve your ability to reason, to process, or your speed of processing, then you can transfer that to all the subjects. That's why. And third thing, the success experiences that you will get from improved skills, now those rebuild your confidence. So when the thinking skills improve, learning becomes easier, and so does life. That's why we now talk about cognitive skills, which are trainable, which are which there's the ability to improve them. And when you improve them, you improve your ability to learn and your life improves. So even if you have a processing speed issue, you train the skills related and then you can process faster. So you don't have this problem with ADHD. If you have an attention deficit, when you improve your skills and you become more confident, then you're able to focus better. Does this make sense? I hope it does. And if there's any question, please do let me know. Now, I'm very happy because from the conversation, it seems that my listeners used to be my students, which I am so happy to see. And I'm overjoyed because all the students and everyone I've taught is always in my heart because my passion is always to help young people achieve their highest potential and improve and break through their limitations. So coming back to what we are discussing, the last thing, so we just saw that there is this program that actually helps improve your ability to learn, your skills that are stopping you from being able to process the environment, to process life, to process all the information that you're receiving. And remember, we agreed that those people with learning difficulties, they get information overload, they get process overload because they cannot understand multi-steps, they cannot memorize things, and sometimes they have a difficulty in starting a task and difficulty in finishing a task. So when you improve the skills to do this, then you're improving their lives by so many folds because now they can process faster, now they can function better, they can follow these many steps, and thus their life improves, right? And then all of those limitations now they become different. Wolf, yes, because the structure of intellect program can be delivered even for young adults. And I'm a trainer, and I delivered the program already to a few students, and I feel that my own skills have improved. My memory is better now. So it can be delivered to young adults, and it's not only for students and young people. Okay, now remember, so we're saying that the company that is delivering and that made this program that can be delivered in schools is called Energia Wellbeing. And Energia, their approach, it's an integrated approach. There's cognitive skill development, which is SOI, which is a shortening of structure of intellect, SOI based. They also work on emotional awareness and confidence building, and they work on growth mindset and self belief. and everything is so personalized, and the sessions are so engaging. Thank you very much for Tina for the compliment. So, the structure of intellect, it's not a solution that fits all. No. It's not like a math lesson that everyone has to take the same. No. It's actually very and highly individualized. We start with an assessment to understand what are your skills, how much are you able, and what are the cognitive skills that are weak, that are strong, exceptional, cautionary. And depending on the results of the assessment, then there's a highly personalized program that is set for you, that will be delivered for you, and that will rely on brain activating games, skills development through activities that look like I'm playing, it's fun. And even the program can be delivered in groups. It can be given in a school setting, like you have a math lesson, an English lesson, French lesson. You can have a structure of intellect session. I don't like to call them lessons because they're not lessons. All right. So, and what do the participant gain? First, improve focus. And I have a very recent experience. I don't know if you saw my post about my latest help or latest impact. It was with a student who is 10 years old, and he in class he used to have this special cushion because he had attention issues, and he didn't like going to school, no reading, no learning. After just a 20 hours program, I didn't give him the whole program, which is 80 hours, just 20 hours focusing only on memory. He can focus in class. He reported to his parents that he's enjoying going to school, and he lost the cushion in school, and now he's considered like anyone else without any learning difficulty. And this was overwhelmingly, well, I don't know how to describe it. There's no word to describe it, because I was able to improve someone's life, especially those young learners. So, improved focus and mental clarity. There's increased independence, because we discussed at the beginning when we spoke about those learning difficulties that they need things to be broken down into steps, they need help. So there's increased independence, there's better emotional regulation, and there's a sense of I can, which is the greatest thing. Inertia doesn't aim to change who someone is. It just helps them function at their best. That's what the structure of intellect program does. So ADHD, autism, learning difficulties, they're not limits. They are invitations to understand, to support, and to unlock the greatest potential. Do I have any question? Anyone would like to ask anything? So remember, they are not signs of failure. They are actually signs that the brain needs a different approach. The brain learns in a different way. And because the brain learns in a different way, when we understand how it learns and we understand how it works, then we can train it in the way it works and support it, and then support emotions, because we start feeling that we're capable, we are achieving, we're having success, and something very powerful happens: confidence returns. So this is it for tonight. Thank you for listening in, and I hope I was able to share, to help you understand better those learning difficulties and what people feel, those who have those difficulties, and to understand, if you are one of them or if you know someone, that there is help out there, and a very impactful help, and a solution that really works. Please get in touch, direct message, or any possible way. There are so many ways to get in touch with me, social media, and I would love to discuss with you how we can together break this label and have a better chance, have a better chance at an enjoyable life full of confidence. Thank you again for joining this live. I am